What's going on, you guys? It is your boy, the American F1 fan, Eric Ringle here, and the Dutch Grand Prix is over, and it's now 4 races in a row for Max Verstappen as he is able to win at Zandvoort, and what heartbreak for Lewis Hamilton. We're going to talk about that here. George Russell able to finish second place, great job from him. Charles Leclerc able to finish in third place. But I think there's a lot of stories to come out of this race. But let's get on into the race recap for the Dutch Grand Prix. So start of the race, we saw Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz all starting on the soft compound tire. Whereas we saw Lewis Hamilton and George Russell start on the mediums. And I think this was a race about strategies. You saw, I think there was about 6 cars on the grid that all started on the medium compound tires, whereas most of the rest of the field started on the softs. But I think as you saw the race progress, the medium compound tires, depending on how much strain you put on them, some teams were able to take them very far into the race. But at the start, Max Verstappen able to get an amazing amazing start, was able to stretch out a 2 to 3 second lead on Charles Leclerc, and Ferrari just didn't seem to have an answer for the Red Bulls. And Charles just wasn't able to chase down Max and just kept losing time hand over fist. And even on the radio, he said the soft compound tires just weren't really they were degrading so quickly. And we even saw Carlos Sainz go make a pit stop first right before Charles Leclerc, who Carlos was in third at the time, makes a pit stop, and apparently Ferrari's mechanics decided to go on holiday for a split second and didn't bring all 4 tires that they were going to put on Carlos Sainz's car, and had a really good stop had the 4th tire been there. And even in the middle of the race, when Crofty asked Mattia Binotto what happened there, Mattia couldn't even come up with a valid explanation as to what happened. And so Ferrari really screwed Carlos Sainz here. And it's this constant. We keep bringing it up after every race, Ferrari's pit strategies, Ferrari's pit crew. This week, it's the Ferrari pit crew that really, I think, just absolutely screwed over Carlos Sainz. Not having tires ready, because then when Charles Leclerc goes to make his pit stop on the mediums, 3 second pit stop, and Charles Leclerc is right back in the race, and you can think that maybe Charles has a chance if you put him on the mediums. I just don't understand Ferrari's mechanics, pit crew, strategists. There's such a huge disconnect there, and you have to wonder, how much longer the heads of Ferrari are going to continue to allow such massive screw-ups on the pit wall and even in the pits. How much longer are you guys going to be able to go through this? So then, as you saw Ferrari pit, you saw finally Max Verstappen was able to pit and go on to a medium set of mediums. Max was running away with the race so much at this point that you could tell that it was just a matter of it felt like it was a matter of time, and in the middle parts of this race, it was a matter of time. But Lewis and George were able to keep up front there, especially with them starting on the medium compound tires. Now, they do make a pit stop. It was about, I want to say, lap 30. It was in the 30s where, both the Mercedes pits, they go onto the hards. This is their one stop of the race, and you could clearly tell when they made this pit stop that their car seemed to come alive. The hard compound tire just made their car come alive. And they were gaining time on Max Verstappen. They were gaining time on Charles Leclerc. And it seemed like it was a matter of time before the Mercedes were able to, kind of work their way to the front. And then you hear a radio message come through from Red Bull, from Christian Horner to Max Verstappen. What do you think about tire compounds? The mediums weren't really working for Max, and you can kind of tell because he goes, these mediums just aren't, aren't great. So you could kind of tell that they were starting to lean towards pitting for a set of hard tires. So now you start to see more and more teams starting to make pit stops off the mediums and starting to move to the hards. Well, one of those teams was AlphaTauri and Yuki Tsunoda. And Yuki Tsunoda makes his pit stop onto the hard compound tires. And this is right before Max does it. And all of a sudden, he comes out of the pits and he comes to a stop. And then they play the radio replay of what he says. And he says, my tires aren't fitted, my tires aren't fitted. And so he stopped. Apparently, he didn't stop the engine because then he was able to get going again. And AlphaTauri tells him over the radio, tires are fine, everything's connected just fine. But he's still going considerably slow as he gets back onto the track. And he eventually gets to the pits. They put him onto a set of soft compound tires. Now, if your tires were fitted correctly, you would have just checked them and not changed tires again. And so there's some screwy, things going on here that, people are thinking that Yuki was right. They tried to keep him in the race. And so they got him to the pits to try to rechange those tires. So they put him onto a set of softs. They're digging around in his cockpit. It almost seemed like they were trying to make, excuses for why he was feeling certain things, maybe tightening the belts. I don't know what was going on here. So Yuki Tsunoda eventually leaves the pits again, but he's driving extremely slow, even coming out of the pits. And he finally says, something doesn't feel right in the rear of the car. So they finally tell him to stop. He stops off the side of the track, and this brings out the virtual safety car. So the virtual safety car comes out, and this brings a lot of people to the pits. So you see Max Verstappen come to the pits, go on to the hards. Then you see Mercedes pit, and they go on to the mediums, which, the mediums are the faster tire. And we heard all throughout the race that the time difference between the mediums and the hards was almost a full second. And so you figure, at this point, if Mercedes is going on to the mediums and Max is going on to the hards, this could get things really, really interesting. Max was able to have a 13-second lead as the virtual safety car was ending, but the excitement was not over yet. So into the lap 50s, we have Valtteri Bottas, who was going down the main straightaway, and all of a sudden his engine goes again. Alfa Romeo and their engine has just been, it's been the Ferrari engine, but they've got to be doing something to this engine other than just, receiving it from Ferrari and then going. It's just a kind of a cluster when it comes to Alfa Romeo. They've been nowhere since the very beginning of the season. And so he ends up stopping on the main straightaway. So when he stops on the main straightaway, you have Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon who are fighting for position. Carlos Sainz pulls right up again, or right next to Esteban Ocon as they're going down the main straightaway. Apparently, and we're still waiting word from the FIA on whether or not he'll get a penalty for this, but it seemed like he may have passed under yellows, but we're not entirely sure because of where the yellow flags were and where Carlos Sainz was in relation to Esteban Ocon. So we're waiting to hear back word from the FIA if he's going to get penalized for passing under yellow flags. But with Valtteri stopped on the edge of the track, this eventually brings out the safety car. And so now all hell is going to even start breaking loose even more. So Max goes back into the pits. He gets onto a set of soft compound tires. This puts Lewis Hamilton and George Russell in 1 and 2. And at this point, you're thinking, holy crap, Lewis and Mercedes may finally be able to win their first race of the season. And so now, with the car stopped out on the main straightaway, the safety car decides to pull through the pits. And this is where I don't understand. Did Mercedes pick up some Ferrari strategists at some point and you know, they made this bonehead move with Lewis Hamilton, but so Max is stopped for softs. They don't stop Lewis Hamilton, keep him on the mediums that he's on. And then George starts complaining and says, my tires are getting cold, put me on the softs, because the softs, you know, get heat into him a lot quicker. So they pit George and give him the soft compound tires. Now this puts George into third place, Max in the second, Lewis Hamilton holding first place. But I think one has to question, from Mercedes' side of things, I don't understand why you allowed George to have a kind of a say in the strategy. You're ahead of Max Verstappen. You've got him in third place. You're basically betting on that Lewis Hamilton is going to be the one that's going to win this race, or he's going to be able to have the more speed as you count down the laps towards the very end. Why not keep George on the softs and say, hey, we need you to play gunner. We need you to keep Max Verstappen behind you. And so they switched George to the soft compound tires, and now this puts him into third place. So now coming into the restart, you have Lewis Hamilton in first, who's on old medium compound tires. You've got Max Verstappen, who's on a slightly used set of soft compound tires. You have George Russell, who's on a used set of soft compound tires. Charles Leclerc has somehow gotten back into this conversation. He's on a used set of soft compound tires. Like, literally, almost the entire field was on soft compound tires, except for Lewis Hamilton. So we get back to the restart after the safety car, and it was just, it was a matter of time. Max gets such a great run off the final corner, that large banking. He was able to get a great run on Lewis Hamilton. It was basically alongside him, right as the green flag was waving, and was able to make the pass going into turn one, and that was it. I mean, like, literally, this puts Max into the lead, and Max started to storm off once again. Then you see George Russell passing Lewis Hamilton, getting into second place, and all the while, Lewis is just losing it on the radio, cussing his team out, going, what are you guys doing? Like, why did you guys F me so bad? Like, I'm so pissed off. Like, why did you not put me onto the soft compound tires as well to give me a shot at this? Like, you can tell that, like, and I have to agree, like, why, if you were going to listen to George and put him on the softs, why would you not have just put Lewis on the softs and give it the college try? Like, I just don't get it. The medium compound tires were going to take a lot longer to warm up compared to the softs, and I think Mercedes really screwed him with the strategy call here. So Max obviously gets into the lead, does not give it up. Just absolutely starts pulling away. George gets past Lewis. Charles gets past Lewis. Like, Lewis is just losing spots hand over fist, and you can tell it's gotten to him. It's really angered him. But so Lewis Hamilton finishing fourth. Then you had Carlos Sainz, who was fifth on track, but was given an unsafe release during the safety car period when he went for a pit stop. Almost took out Fernando Alonso, gets a 5-second penalty for that unsafe release, finished fifth on track, but finishes eighth in the race. But it's just, it was a comedy of errors for Carlos Sainz and Ferrari once again. And again, and I called it when I did my prediction video and did the race preview, Max Verstappen was going to win this race, and I thought Charles would at least finish second. Maybe you get a Mercedes in third. So that was pretty close. You got to give it to me. But Max Verstappen wins fourth race in a row. I mean, just it's becoming a dominant performance this season. But guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. What did you think of the Dutch Grand Prix? I got to say, it was boring for a good majority of this race. I think we got what we needed, which was that safety car to kind of bring some excitement back into the race. But I think in the grand scheme of things, for the most part, most of this race was boring. The last, like, 15 laps, fantastic racing. But guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Guys, as always, slap a like on this video for more daily and weekly Formula One content. We've got it pumping out all the time. We're going to have another race next weekend as well. So, and next weekend is just amazing in America. We've got Formula One. We're going to have football. Like, it's going to be a great day in the United States. But guys, also, subscribe if you guys are new for more daily and weekly Formula One content. We are so close to 200 subscribers. We are so close. So get me there if you guys can. If you guys are watching this video and you aren't subscribed, subscribe to this channel. But guys, thank you so much for watching. And guys, for the American F1 fan, I'm Eric Ringel, signing off.